Anjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamritamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Tuesday and the Thursday series of the Vaishnav Ninda. Especially, we have been discussing a contemporary study, which is the part 2 after Bhaktivinoda Thakur's analysis of Vaishnav Ninda. So we have been studying quite in detail, especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's deliverance of criticizers and his instructions, especially the pastimes of Vaishnav Ninda offenses, which are mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavata. So in the last 2 classes, we discussed the past, Chand Kazi's pastime, not Chand Kazi. Then Haridas Thakur's reading punishment. And in the last class, we discussed the reasoning more in detail and the pastime of living in the cave with the poisonous snake and what lessons we can derive from this whole pastime. Very interesting pastime this is. Now, immediately after this, the next pastime which is mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat is the snake charmer pastime. So we'll discuss this. After narrating the pastime of Haridas Thakur living in the cave and what are the lessons we can also derive from it, quite a lot lessons are there for us to learn from that pastime. And his glories are described in few verses. And after that, in text 198 to 251, there is the snake charmer pastime, very beautiful pastime. Ara eka shuno tan adbhuta akhyan Nagaraja ei kahila mahima tahan Now, please hear another wonderful incident that was narrated by the king of snakes. So, the king of snakes is called as Nagaraj or Ananta. So, Anant himself uh, extolled the glories of Haridas Thakur, and how this happened, let us hear. One day, a snake charmer was dancing in the courtyard of a wealthy man. So, the snake charmer is the one who, by playing the kind of a flute, he makes the snakes dance, and he himself also dances sometimes. So he was dancing in the courtyard of a wealthy man. His associates played the mridanga and a flute used for snake charming as they loudly sang on all sides of the snake charmer. So there were his associates who were playing the mridanga and the flute, which is used for charming the snake. The snake charmer was absorbed under the influence of some mantras that he was chanting. So the snake charmer was under certain mantras while he was chanting. By providence, Haridas came there and began to watch the side. So Daivagati, without any providence or by his own sweet will, Haridas Thakur came there. By the power of mantras chanted by the snake charmer, the king of snakes had appeared in the body of the snake charmer and was happily dancing. So actually what had happened, Nagaraj here refers to Shesh, the devotee of Lord Vishnu, Anand or Vasuki. So he was possessed by Shesh. Shesh had entered his body and he appeared in the body of the snake charmer, and it was Anand Shesh who was dancing through the body of the snake charmer. The snake charmer was loudly and sweetly singing about Krishna's dance in the Kalya lake. So the snake charmer was beautifully, sweetly singing these pastimes of the Kalya Daman Leela. So in the olden times, especially in the Vedic times, all the dramas which were enacted were all based on Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why they were all devotional dramas, and ultimately it was not only entertainment, but it was completely devotional. So similarly, during that time, the snake charmer was not just ordinary professional snake charmer who just makes money, but he was a devotee, and that is why Shesha had entered his body, and he was extolling the glories of Krishna, especially the Kalya Daman Leela. As Haridas heard the glorious pastimes of the Lord, he fell unconscious on the ground and his breath stopped. When he regained consciousness, some moments later, he roared loudly and began to dance in ecstasy. Seeing Haridas's ecstatic mood, the snake charmer stopped his dancing and stood off to the side. Thakur Haridas rolled on the ground, and wonderful ecstatic symptoms like hair standing on the end, crying and shivering became manifest in his body. Haridas was fully absorbed in ecstatic love after hearing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and tears of love flowed from his eyes. So these actually what happened to Haridas Thakur is, when Haridas heard the glories of the Lord, he lost his consciousness. Just like Aho Bhakyam Sanakala Kutam. When Uddhava is narrating what is the glory of Krishna, that the Baki who had fed in a breast poison, but still Krishna delivered her, and he gave a stan of a Dhatri, Kamva Dayalu Sharinam. So those who are Mahabhavas on the prima stage, anything which is connected to Krishna, when they see, that can cause uddipan. Uddipan are, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, quite elaborately it is mentioned that any object which awakens ecstasy, spiritual ecstasy, they are called as uddipans. So we know that famous pastime when Mukund, the physician, had gone to see the Muslim king, and the chamara was being fanned to the Muslim king. Just seeing the peacock feather, he immediately went into ecstasy of remembering Krishna, and he became so ecstatic thinking about Krishna that he rolled on the ground and fell unconscious. And the king got down from his seat and raised Mukunda. What happened? No, I sometimes have epilepsy, and sometimes this happens. But the king was very clever. He could detect that this is not because of this epilepsy. It is a sign of great devotion. So the king had a lot of faith like that. So similarly, Haridas Thakur, hearing the glories of how Krishna delivered Kalia, so he went into deep ecstasy. So firstly, he lost external consciousness and he fell on the ground. And these Sattvic vikars, which manifest, they manifest from the soul, they spring from the soul, and they're experienced at the mind and the bodily platform. So, but these emotions are not material emotions, they are completely spiritual emotions springing from the soul. So, when he regained consciousness, thinking about the glories, he was completely oblivious and he danced in ecstasy, and all the Sattvic vikars manifested. Now, this snake charmer was a genuine devotee of the Lord. That is why Ananta Shesh had entered his body. So, seeing the transformations in the body of Haridas Thakur, he stopped his dancing and stood off in the side with great respect. So, this is what happened. Then everyone surrounding Haridas joyfully began chanting Krishna's glories. The snake charmer respectfully stood to the side with folded hands. So all the people started also chanting Krishna's glories, and the snake charmer still with hands. After Haridas returned to external consciousness, the snake charmer again began to dance. So Haridas Thakur was in ecstasy, bhava, and came consciousness. Then the snake charmer began to dance. Everyone was overwhelmed with joy after seeing Haridas's ecstatic observation. They all eagerly took the dust from his footprints and smeared it on their bodies. Now what happened? Seeing this scene, one pseudo Brahmana who was, I will also dance today. Even an illiterate fool who dances like he's in ecstasy is greatly respected by common people. Thinking in this way, he immediately crashed to the ground and became motionless. As soon as the pseudo Brahmana fell near the dancing snake charmer, the snake charmer became angry and began severely beating the Brahmana with a stick. After being beaten with the stick all over the body, the anguished Brahmana ran away screaming, "Father, Father." So, this pseudo Brahmana tried to imitate Haridas Thakur, and the snake charmer could immediately understand it. So here Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that being puffed up with pride of being a Brahmana, I am being induced by his polluted intelligence that Surya Brahmana tried to artificially imitate the transcendental characteristic of the Mahabhagavad Vaishnava Haridas Thakur. So this is imitation, and a lot of lesson in this pastime is there for us also, and we will look into it once we discuss this pastime. Another point which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes is that when people respect an ordinary human being and a non-seminal Brahmana like Haridas so much, just by seeing his display of petty ordinary emotions, then if I, the son of seminal Brahmana, can simply mimic his transcendental emotions, I can't imagine how much profit, adoration, and distinction I will receive. If I exhibit transcendental artificial emotions, then my insignificant material fame will certainly surpass the fame of the transcendental Vaishnava. Thinking in this way, in order to exhibit artificial sentiments, the atheistic, hypocritical Sahajas went around and actually pretended to be unconscious. So this was the thinking which was going on this in this pseudo Brahmana. Are this non-seminal Haridas Thakur, by exhibiting these emotions, he's getting so much respect, and I'm a seminal Brahmana. So how much more respect I can get? So that is how he did. Thereafter, the snake charmer happily continued on with his dance, and everyone there watched in astonishment. So after beating this Brahmana, the snake charmer continued to dance, and people watched with astonishment. Later, they all folded their hands and asked the snake charmer, "Please explain to us why you beat the Brahmana. Why did you beat the Brahmana? And why did you stand aside with folded hands when Haridas was dancing?" Then the serpent devotee of Vishnu spoke through the mouth of the snake charmer about the glories of Haridas Thakur. Now, the servant devotee of Vishnu is Shesh. This Shesh is the Shesh who acts as a bed for the Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu. He is Shesh, and he is a great devotee of the Lord. So, Shesha spoke through the mouth of the snake charmer the glories of Vishnu. So, what is his glories? Let us hear. You have asked me about a mysterious subject. Although it is confidential, I must disclose it. So here Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also mentions, in reply, Anantadev or Shesh, who was situated in the body of the snake charmer, spoke to everyone through the mouth of the snake charmer. So this is very emphatic and clear that actually Anant Shesh spoke. You all felt great reverence for Haridas when you saw his ecstatic dance. Seeing this, that pseudo Brahmana fell on the ground in an envious imitation of Haridas. Taha deki, O Brahmana, dangyate karya, padila matsarya buddhi acharya kiya. So, because of envy being, oh, why is he being respected more? I can also get that same kind of respect. So, he imitated Haridas, who has the power to enviously disturb the pleasure of my dancing. Amara Ritya Sukha Bhanga Karibare, Matsarya Jana Shakti Dhare. Out of audacity, he tried to imitate Haridas, and therefore I punished him accordingly. It was imitation. That's why I punished. So that is the reason here. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes a lot of points here. Haridas Thakur is a non-duplicitous, transcendental, spontaneous, pure devotee of the Lord. Whereas the pseudo Brahmana is the abominable Prakat Sahajya. Artificial imitation is born of false rivalry with non-duplicitous pure devotees is a fraudulent drama of the hypocritical Sahajas. Since this Prakat Sahaja tried to artificially imitate the activities of Mahabhagavat Vaishnav Thakur out of envy and hate, we, in our first contemporary study, we did a little understanding of the terms of jealousy, envy, dislike, hate. Hate is also an emotion, but envy is very deep rooted compared to hate. So we saw that. So it is out of envy and hate, and with a desire to cheaply acquire mundane fame from the foolish persons ignorant of the truth. And that is why he was sufficiently punished. He presented himself as an important person by imitating some religious sentiments. So this is what he did. And here, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions Baka Vrata and Vaidala Vrata. Baka Vrata is the vow of a Baka is a duck. So what is the definition? An impostor Brahmana, the follower of Baka Vrata, the vow of a duck, is he who always looks down in order to make a show of humility, who is cruel and who pretends to be submissive. So Bhaka Vrata, where have we heard about in the Krishna Lila about Bhaka Vrata? What is Bhaka Vrata? Any pastime anyone knows from the Krishna killing the demons, where there is mention of Bhaka? Anyone knows? Yes, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhu, is it Bakasura's Vada Prabhu?
Yes, Bakasura. So Bakasura is Bakasura is the Baka is very pure and white, and it is there in the lake, beautiful lake, and it is bowed his head down in humility, and it is as though doing deep absorption and meditation. But what is the intention of the buck? To catch the fish. You know? So similarly, we might externally show that we are brahmanas, we are very pure, but internally we have what? We have these ill motives. So these anarthas are very deep rooted. In fact, in the Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Shikshamrit, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur does a lot of analysis about the Krishna Leela. And he says there are two types of Leelas Krishna performs. One is called as the Nitya Leela, and the other is called as the Naimittika Leela. So the Nitya Leelas are the Leelas which Krishna eternally performs in his transcendental abode, Golok Vrindavan. And there are no demons. In the spiritual abode, there are no demons. Krishna doesn't kill any demons there. But in the Bhauma pastimes, Krishna performs both the Nitya Leelas and the Naimittika Leelas. And among the two, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that the Naimittika Leela pastimes of Krishna killing these asuras are more important for sadhakas or conditioned souls to hear. And that is why Prabhupada especially gave the Krishna book also, so that we can read these pastimes of the Naimittika Leelas also, along with the Nitya Leelas. So that's a package how Srila Prabhupada gave. So these asuras represent specific anarthas in our heart. And here there is imitation of the Mahabhagavat, the Bhakavrata. So there's an imposter, vow of a duck, who makes a show of humility, and he pretends to be submissive, but he is actually very cruel. Then there is the another vrata, what is called as a Vadala Vrati, the vow of a cat. The one should know that the Dharmadvaji, one who makes a false show of being religious, the person who is always desires others' wealth, the duplicitous person, and the person who cheats, the envious person, and the person who blasphemes are hypocritical brahmanas who follow Vaidala Vrati or Vaidala Vrat, the vow of the cat. So these are the Dharmadvajis who are duplicitous in their nature and who are envious. So this Brahmana was envious. Actually, that arrogant and deceitful Brahmana has no love for Krishna. To achieve the devotional service of the Lord, one has to be free from duplicity. So, in this part, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions pure devotion to Krishna is present wherever the symptoms of Dharadvaji, Vaidala, Vratis are absent, and pride, duplicity, and extraneous motives are present wherever such faults are found. So these are the deep-rooted anarthas become free from. And Srila Raghunath Das Goswami in his Manashiksha speaks about these internal anarthas. Especially he speaks about first the external obstacles in the form of Asatvarta. Asatvarta Vaishya. Asatvarta means talks unrelated to Krishna. He compares to a Vaishya, a prostitute. Mati Sarvasya Harani. It takes away our mati or intelligence, which should go towards Krishna. Kata Mukti Vyagra Na Shutu Kila Atma Grahani. So the Mukti Kata or the Gyanis talks about liberation. They are like what? The tiger which comes and kills a human being. Similarly, it is like, killing spiritual suicide. And don't be attached to the Vaikuntha Narayan. Just be attached to Radha and Krishna. This is the fourth verse or the third verse, I think. In the fourth verse, in the fifth verse, this is the fourth verse. In the fifth verse, Raghunath Das Thakur or Raghunath Das Goswami mentions the subtle anarthas in the form of the six ripus, the six enemies. It's a beautiful verse where he mentions that how this Kama, Krodha are enemies. And one should take the shelter of the devotees of the killer of Baka. So the six enemies are, there, and one should take the shelter of the pure devotees who have taken shelter of the killer of Baka, that is Krishna. So that's what he mentions. Asacheshta kashta prada prakatva viriha prakamyam kamadi prakatpata pati vetikare gale badva hanneham iti bhakavartvagane kurutvam futkara navati sayatata manashunu. I don't recollect the verse, but this is exactly the verse, exactly the word to word. Maybe I did not chant it. Asat cheshta kashta prada. When you endeavor to fulfill lust, anger, envy, greed, pride, asat cheshta, kashta prada, it is kashta prada. Prakamyam kamadi. And this is kamadi. Kamadi means beginning from lust, anger, pride, envy, illusion. And what? Pata pata vetikare. Actually, the path of devotion is illuminated. But these are like robbers who are on the path who will, with their weapons, tie you. Gale badwa, they tie ropes on your neck. Hanneham. So when these robbers attack you in the form of kama, krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya, what you should do? Hanneham, hanneham. I've been killed. Baka vrata, no. Gale badya hanneham baka vartma ganu gane. So those followers of the call out futkaranam. Call out cryingly from the heart. The pure devotees. You need not call Krishna. You should not call Krishna. You should call devotees who are followers of Bhagavat, Krishna, the followers of Krishna. You call them, and then they will come, and they are like the policemen. So moment police come, the thieves run away. So the pure devotees are like the policemen. And in the next verse, he speaks about duplicity. Although one conquers the six enemies, but there are still deeper anarthas in the form of duplicity. And in the entire one verse, he speaks about duplicity. Arachet prodayet ka pata kuti nati bharakhara sharan mudre snatma dahasi katam atman tvamapi Sadatam Gandharva Giridhara. I don't recollect. Sadatvam Gandharva Giridhara Prema Vilasat Sudam Bodho Snatva Twamapi Mam Tvam Bhajamana. I'll next time try to get these verses on the slides. So, Ore Chet, your mind. Prodayet kapata kutinata bharakara. This kutinati or duplicity is like a donkey. And not only donkey, it is like the bathing of the, why are you bathing in donkey's urine? Donkey's urine is very, very, you know, it is having a lot of heat. And it is said that if the donkey's urine falls on the head will become bald. In fact, a king who wished to deviate from his Kshatriya duty was punished by being bathed in a donkey's urine, and he would become bald, and that is a great insult for a king. So similarly, why are you, having duplicity in your activities? Arichet prodayet kapata kutinati bharakhara sharan mutre snatva. Why are you bathing in this? Instead of that, you bathe in Sudham Bodho Snatva. Sudham Bodho means you bathe in the nectar of the pastimes of Gandharva Giridhari. Gandharvika Giridhari, that is Radha and Krishna. And save me from this burning donkey's urine. And you save me and myself also. He's preaching this to the mind. So this duplicity, my point was, this duplicity is a great anartha. And in the last verse, the subtlest of all the anarthas is pratishta. Pratishta asha drishtva swapachi meri dinate katam sadhu premna sprashati etat tanumana sadatam sevasya prabhudaita samantam. I don't recollect the last line. So, no, Pratishta Asha, the desire for Pratishta, Swapachi Ramani me Ridhinate. And Raghunath Goswami is very, very heavy here. He compares to a Ramani, means a prostitute, and this is not an ordinary prostitute. She is a prostitute who eats dog's meat. So Pratishta Asha Swapachi Ramani Ridhi Nate. Ridhi Nate means she is dancing in your heart. Katam Sadhu Premna Sprushati Etat Tanumana. So when already there is a prostitute who is dancing in your Sadhu Premna. Sadhu Premna means Krishna Prem. Krishna Prem is Premna is Striling. So how will the chaste Krishna Prem enter your heart? Because in your heart already there is a prostitute who is a dog eater. How can Sadhu Premna enter your heart? Just like in a chaste house where the chaste wife is there, and if the husband is with the prostitute, how will the chaste wife enter that house? So similarly, how Sadhu Prem can enter? So what is the solution? Sadatam sevasya Prabhu Daita Samantam. You always serve the pure devotees, Prabhu Daita, who are very, very dear to the Lord. And this prostitute then will run away and he will bestow Krishna Prem to you. So that is the confidential service one has to perform. Sadatvam sadhu. No, Sadatam sevasya prabhudaita samattam. And you also save me from this duplicity or pratishta. So these are the, the external activities when they are done, especially the external activities might, indicate some things, but there are internal some anarthas by which these external activities are manifesting. So it is very difficult to, why suddenly certain devotees or certain Vaishnavas behavior is in a certain way. And Raghunath Das Goswami is giving a lot of hint in his Manashiksha about it. So here further, the snake charmer through whom Haridas, through whom Anant was speaking, he's saying, one who sees Haridas dancing is free from all bondage. When Haridas dances, Lord Krishna personally dances. Thus, the whole universe can be purified by seeing his dance. So, this is the beauty of a pure devotee when he dances. Just by seeing his dancing, the whole universe is purified and everyone can get devotion. So this is what is the glory, and that is why this snake charmer stood with respect in the side when Haridas Thakur was chanting. So here Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also makes the point, when Haridas Thakur exhibits the transcendental pastime of dancing, then being controlled by his non-duplicitous love, Krishna Chandra along with his associates also dance. By seeing such transcendental dancing, many fortunate persons of this world became free from heaps of sinful reactions accumulated over many past lifetimes and thus achieve piety that leads to devotion. So when pure devotees or Haridas Thakur, when they dance, just by seeing their dancing, the public or the devotees, all their heaps of sinful reactions are all destroyed. The public will attain Shraddha and they will take up to devotion. Those who are already devotees, their Shraddha will enhance. Especially there are many videos, especially one video is very, very famous. Many must be knowing about it. In the Russian Yatra, Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, Hridayanand Swami Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj, and many other sannyasis were dancing. And just that dancing, when you see, it is really not of this world. You can feel that. So this is the effect. His name Haridas is appropriate for Lord Krishna constantly dwells in his heart. Hari Das. Hari is the Das of Haridas Thakur who resides in his heart. So the Ambrish Maharaj pastime, Sadhu Hridayo Mayam. I am controlled by the sadhus. I am in their rush. What Lord declares to Darvasa, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati quotes. He is affectionate to all living entities and he is always engaged in their welfare. Haridas Thakur did not want to just manifest these external symptoms, ecstatic symptoms to show how great he was, but he was completely under control of Krishna. And Krishna somehow wanted to mercifully give darshan of his pure devotees dance so that all others who watch, they will also get devotion. So it was Krishna's arrangement that this happened. He accompanies the Lord whenever he incarnates. So that is Haridas Thakur. He is never offensive to Vishnu or Vaishnavas, and even in a dream, he does not deviate from the proper path. Uni se niraparada Vishnu Vaishnavate. So that is the characteristic of even a Mahabharata. One who associates with Haridas, even for a fraction of a moment, will certainly attain shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is the glory of Haridas. Lord Brahma and Shiva always desire to associate with a devotee like Haridas. On the order of the Lord, Haridas was born in a low-class family to show that birth in the high caste or good family are useless. So this is why the Lord enacted a pastime that Haridas was born in a low family. If a devotee is born in a low-class family, he is still worthy of worship. This is the verdict of the scriptures. To prove the verdict of the scriptures, Haridas was born. If someone is born in a high caste family but does not worship the lotus feet of Krishna, then his high birth is useless and he falls to the verdict. Haridas took his birth in a low class family to prove the words of the scriptures. And he gives two quotations. Haridas was born in a low class family, just as Prahlad was born in a demonic family, and Hanuman was born in a monkey family. The demigods desire the touch of Haridas, and even Mother Ganga desires that Haridas immerse himself in her waters. So Lord Krishna arranged that Prahlad be born in a demonic family and Hanuman be born in the family of Vaishnavas. It was the supreme will of the Lord. Similarly, was born in Literally, human beings desire to become purified by other touching the demigods or taking bath in Ganga. But what to speak of the demigods headed by Brahma? In the sanctified, most sanctified Ganga, which emanates from the lotus feet of Vishnu, desires to become glorious by the touch of Mahabhagavat Paramhams Vaishnava Acharya Haridas Thakur, who is the representative of all demigods. So this is the level of a Vaishnava Acharya. Acharya Mam Vijanina Sarvat Deva Mayo Guru. Uddhav Gita verse is there. What to speak of his touch? Just by seeing Haridas, one is released from the bondage of fruitive activities. Darshane pavitra karo, ei tumar gon. Indeed, even if one sees a person who has taken shelter of Haridas, he is freed from material bondage. If I glorify Haridas for 100 years with 100 mouths, I will still not reach the end of his glories. You are all fortunate for because you and I have received the opportunity to glorify Haridas. I assure you that one who simply chants the name of Haridas without offense will certainly attain the abode of Krishna. This is the glory of Haridas. Sakrit ke bolibeke Haridas Nam. So we should all chant Haridas, Haridas. Satya Satya Sneha Yabeke Krishna Dham. It is certain that he will attain Krishna. If a person even once utters the transcendental name of Vaishnava Thakur Haridas, he will certainly go back to Godhead. After speaking this way, the king of snakes became silent, and all the pious people there felt fully satisfied. Thus, the Vaishnava snake related stories of Haridas. So, this is the beautiful pastime where we learn one important lesson is that imitation. We should not imitate the Mahabhagavats. And the sign of imitation is a duplicity in the heart. And this duplicity is a anartha, a great anartha. And we cannot attain pure devotion as long as this duplicity is there in the heart. First are these 6 anartha, and then there is this duplicity. And the last anarthas, which is pratishta. And as long as these anarthas are not destroyed, pure prem, Krishna prem, or bhava bhakti and prema bhakti will not manifest. So it is easy to imitate, but very difficult to follow. Sometimes the disciples of the sannyasis are very elevated and exalted, and they are natural leaders. Leadership qualities are there naturally in them. And sometimes the disciples try to imitate when the sannyasi is not in their temple, try to imitate their. So this kind of imitation is not a healthy sign. Imitation, we cannot get those qualities. The internal purification is required, and we should be very careful and introspective that we don't fall into these duplicitous activities. This is what we can learn from this pastime of the snake charmer pastime. So any questions, any clarifications you have what we discussed about this pastime? There's another pastime which I would like to narrate, and we will wind up with this another pastime, which is a very important pastime in the life of Haridas Thakur. But do you have any questions till now what we discussed? Okay, so then we will go to the next pastime, which is a very interesting pastime. After hearing the snake's narration through the mouth of the snake charmer, all felt great affection for Haridas. Haridas Thakur just passed his days in this way before Gaurachandra manifested his devotional feelings. This is before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya and manifested his devotional feelings. All these pastimes are before that. And what was the situation in Navdeep at that time? People were devoid of devotional service to Vishnu. They had no understanding of the meaning or the goal of Kirtan. This was the situation. Everyone simply taunted the Vaishnavas. The devotees would meet together and chant the names of Krishna while clapping their hands. The miscreants became most indigent even at this. Those atheists would meet together to blaspheme the devotees. So the atheists would blaspheme the devotees. The few devotees were there. What they would blaspheme? These Brahmanas will destroy this country and bring about famine. These Brahmanas perform sentimental and play various tricks in order to beg alms. So why they do this? It is to beg alms. That is their reasoning. And the Lord takes rest for 4 months during the rainy season. But these Brahmanas loudly call him even at that time. If the Lord's sleep is disturbed, he will become angry and create a famine in this country. There's no doubt about it. Someone would blaspheme. If the price of rice increases, then I will catch them and give them a punch. Someone else said, on Ekadasi, these devotees stay up all night and chant the name of Govinda. What is the need for chanting the Lord's name every day? In this way, the atheists condemn the devotees in various ways. So that is how the blasphemy and condemnation of the Vaishnavas was done by these Brahmanas. This is all happening in Navdeep. The devotees all felt aggrieved on hearing these things, yet none of them gave up chanting of the names of Hari. So this is very important. So we might be blasphemed, we might be ridiculed, but we should stick on to the path. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur made a very remarkable statement. For those who are sincere on this path is laid with thorns. So we can see Haridas Thakur, the Mahabhagavat, but right from Fulia, there he was beaten in 22 markets. From there, he came to the bank of Ganges, and there the pastime happened of the snake. And now from there, he comes to the snake charmer. There also, we see that this Brahmana imitated. And now we see what will happen further in Navdeep, how the Brahmanas challenge Haridas Thakur and criticize him. So we will also hear that. Maya Narsimha Prabhuji has a question. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, in this regard, the striking point always comes where I was in Bangalore and even now where I am in. There is, very well that there is a sect of in ISKCON, those who have different opinion about the present system of ISKCON, and they got separated and they are practicing bhakti. So in one way they are offenders if you see Prabhupada's books, and but still they are practicing bhakti. So what should be our approach towards them, and whether they will really get the benefit of their practice of bhakti, Prabhuji, because they misinterpreted the understandings of Prabhupada's teachings. So what should be basically our attitude towards them, because we often come across them in some forums.
We should be very respectful in our dealings. They are also Vaishnavas. We should offer our respects. And not to speak of these Vaishnavas, Prabhupada in the Nectar of Instruction mentions even the Prakata Sahajias. The Prakat Sahajias also chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but they are addicted to illicit sex, they are addicted to intoxication, and their behavior is not good. But yet Prabhupada says that one should offer them respects in the mind, but should not associate with them. So similarly, even the Vaishnavas whom you feel are renegades means they have deviated from the parampara or the parampara teachings of the acharyas. Firstly, whether our understanding is correct or no, that has to be really authenticated and verified. That requires a Mahabhagavata's vision to see that. But not going into the controversial issues, we should just respect them as Vaishnavas and maintain respectful distance. And if we have someone in that circle who is very close to us, who can reveal to us what exactly is the situation going in the heart, and then we have that friendship, and then slowly we can see how exactly we can help. Otherwise, we should be respectful and maintain distance and not associate much. That is what practically we need to do. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
Okay, Prabhu. So we need to maintain some respectful distance. We should not take advice and associate closely.
Yes, of course.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you,
Okay.
Prabhu.
So, yeah. So now we will go to this next pastime, which is interesting pastime. So Haridas was also very aggrieved seeing people's lack in interest in devotional service. But seeing all this, still Haridas continued to chant. And the most sinful miscreants were even unable to hear this loud chanting. So although Haridas was chanting so loudly, but the most sinful miscreants were not able to hear this chanting. And there now Vrindavan Das Thakur start narrating the pastime. In this regard, there was one impious Brahmana who lived in the village of Harinadi. He once angrily said to Haridas. What did he say to Haridas? Now here, very important point and purport, which is like a sutra for us to know. In the purport, it is there. One is, we will not go into this, how to ascertain the varna. There are two ways. One is by seminal consideration. Second is according to the qualities. And there are two types of people, the pious and sinful. Bhaktisiddhanta says. Now, who are pious? Vaishnavas who are engaged in the service of the Lord are pious. And proud persons who are averse to the Lord and devoid of good qualities are sinful, though they may belong to any of the varnas. If they belong to the Brahmana varna also. Although one may be identified as a Brahman according to seminal consideration, as a result of being envious of the pious persons, he is considered sinful. If he is envious of the Vaishnavas, he is considered sinful. Now, here's an important point. Whenever envy is directed towards Vishnu, the devotional service of Vishnu, or the devotees of Vishnu, then due to such demonic propensities, even respected so-called Brahmanas are designated as sinful by the pious. So we should never direct envy towards Vishnu, devotional service, or the devotees. In fact, when we direct envy towards the devotees of Vishnu, it is actually envy directed towards the Lord. And when we are an aparadi and we are sinful. So here, this pastime, through this pastime, it is being narrated because Haridas, this Brahmana became envious about Haridas Thakur. And what he says, oh Haridas, what is this behavior? Why are you loudly names? The injunction is that one should chant in the mind. Which scripture says that one should chant loudly? I told you about Upanshu Japa in the Tuesday class. Who has taught you to chant the holy name loudly? Please give your explanation before this assembly of learned scholars. Haridas said, you all know the glories of the Lord's Hari's holy names. Therefore, I have simply repeated and will repeat whatever I have heard from you. So here you can see how Haridas Thakur never expected honor but honored others. And he humbly replied, I have not learned the incomparable glories of Hari's names from the Shastras through the path of argument. But how with humility he starts appearing. Now Haridas Thakur explains, if one chants loudly, he gets 100 times more benefit. The scriptures never condemn loud chanting. Rather, they glorify. If one loudly chants the holy names of the Lord, he obtains 100 times more benefit than by chanting softly or remembering the holy names. The Brahmana said, how does one get 100 times more benefit than loud chanting? So Haridas Thakur replied, my dear sir, listen the verdict of the Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam in this regard. Haridas then revealed the purport of all the scriptures as he began his explanation in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. Shuno Vipra, listen dear Brahmana, Sakrit Shunile Krishna, Pashu Pakshi Kitaya, Sri Vaikuntha Dham. Even if animals, birds, or insects hear the holy names of the mouth from the mouth of the pure devotee, they will go to Vaikuntha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself exhibited this pastime. Shivanand Sen became attached to a dog. And because that dog was dear to Shivanand Sen, the dog was lost in the party, which was reaching Jagannath. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ultimately gave the mercy, and the dog was there. And feeding the dog coconut pulp, and the dog was chanting Krishna Krishna. And Shivanand Sen, moment he saw the dog, he first offered obeisances to the dog because he could not serve the dog properly because it went missing. And then the and immediately left to Vaikuntha. So we should know about Haridas Thakur's statement also here, that when these birds, animals, insects hear the holy name from the mouth of a pure devotee, they will attain Vaikuntha. And now he gives the reference from Srimad Bhagavatam. Once the cowherd man headed by Srinanda came to Ambikavan on the bank of the river Saraswati. After worshipping the demigods and the brahmanas with a vow, they took rest there. At that time, a fierce-looking great snake began to swallow Nanda. Hearing Nanda's cry of distress, Lord Krishna, who maintains his surrendered souls and who is affectionate to his father, touched the great snake with his left foot. The serpent was immediately freed from his reptilian body and appeared in effulgent form of a Vidyadhar. And by the order of the Lord, he began to relate the history of his sinful activities in his previous life. While offering prayers, he described the glories of receiving the touch of the Lord's feet, which are rarely attained by the demigods, in the following verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yannamagrahan akhilan Shrotran Atmanam Evacha Sadhya Punati Kim Bhuya Tasya Sprashta Padahite. Anyone who chants your name purifies all who hear his chanting. So here is the reference, as well as himself. How much more beneficial then is the touch of your lotus feet? So this is the Vidyadhar saying. One who chants purifies who all hear, and he also gets purified. So this is the praman he gives. Then, although animals, birds, and insects cannot chant, when they hear the holy names, they will all be delivered. If one silently chants the names of Krishna, then he is delivered. But if one loudly chants, then he delivers others also. Therefore, the scripture says that one gets 100 times more benefit by chanting loudly. Now he quotes another reference from the Naradiya Puran. Japato Hari Namani Sthane Shata Gunadika Atmanam Cha Punati Ucche Japan Stotran Punati Cha. Anyone who chants the holy names of the Lord is 100 times greater than one who chants one who silent chants. Shata Gunadika Japato Harinam. Because those who chant silently purify themselves. Atmanam cha punati. While those who chant loudly purify themselves as well as those who hear. Japan stotran punati cha, but Atmanam cha punati uchair. So this is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj in the Naradiya Purana. The Puranas say that a person who chants the Lord's name loudly is 100 times more pious than the person who chants to himself. O Brahmana, listen carefully to the reason behind this. One who softly chants the holy name liberates only himself. One who loudly chants the names of Govinda, however, liberates himself along with all living entities who hear it. Although all living entities have a tongue, only the human being is able to chant the names of Krishna. The frogs have tongue, the dog has tongue, but they cannot chant the name of Krishna. Tell me what is wrong with that activity by which living entities who have taken useless births will be delivered. One person may maintain himself while another may maintain 1,000 people. Of the two, consider careful who is better. This is the superior characteristic of loud chanting. After hearing the words of Haridas, the Brahmana began to angrily blaspheme him. So, hearing these words, the Brahmana blasphemed. Now, even Haridas has become a philosopher. I can see Vedic culture is being destroyed in the course of time. So, hearing this philosophical Siddhanta, this Brahmana is saying, oh, there are Shad Darshan. Now the seventh darshan is being produced by Haridas. It is stated that Shudras will explain the Vedas at the end of Kali. But why only at the end of this age? We can see it happening even now. So this is how angry out of envy, uh, this Brahmana started speaking this. Now here, but important, this is how you advertise yourselves so that you can eat nicely at other houses. So this is his, arop. This is his accusation. If the explanation that you have made is not true, then I will cut off your nose and ears. So this is what heavily this Brahmana pronounced. Out of anger, he cursed and swore as follows: if the explanation of the glories of the holy name presented by Haridas Thakur is not in agreement with the scriptures, then I will take revenge by publicly cutting off Haridas Thakur's nose ears. Hearing the words of the sinful Brahmana, Haridas smiled and chanted the name of Hari. He did not speak further to that atheistic Brahmana, but left immediately while loudly chanting the holy names. The sinful members of that assembly were all wicked-minded. They neither supported the authorized statements of Haridas, nor did they protest the offensive words of the Brahmana. So they also got implicated in the sin. So this we also see in the Daksha pastime. When Daksha offended Shiva, the Brahmanas who were there on Daksha side or on the other side, they did not oppose. So they also got implicated. So that is the Vaishnava Prad. That's why we should leave the place. They were Brahmanas in name only. Actually, they were all demons fit to be punished by Yamraj. In Kali Yuga, demons are born in the family of Brahmanas in order to harass saintly persons. So this is Vrindavan Das Thakur's statement. Though demonic persons who are envious of Vishnu and the Vaishnavas may take in birth in Brahmana families, they are nevertheless envy the Vaishnavas. This is the speciality of Kali Yuga. So, Brahmanas, are become envious of Vaishnavas and they blaspheme. Why? Because in Kali Yuga, demons are born in the family of Brahmanas. And the quotation is from the Vara Puran. Rakshasa kalim ashritya jayante brahma yonishu utpanna brahmana brahmana kule bhadyante shrotriyan krishan. In Kali Yuga, demons will take birth in the family of Brahmanas to harass those rare persons who are conversant with the Vedic way of life. So this was spoken by Lord Shiva in the Vara Puran. Prabhupada also quotes this shloka in the Divine and the Demonic, chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. Asurim apanna muda janmani janmanishu mam adamam gatim. That verse, I think he quotes this. So these demonic persons, they are Rakshasavati, and I put them in lower species of life. So in that purport, Prabhupada also quotes this. The scriptures forbid one from touching, speaking to, or offering respect to such brahmanas. There is no need to speak further on this. Even by mistake, one should not touch, speak to those brahmanas who have no devotion to Supreme Lord. Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying this. Just as one in this world should never see a dog eating mandala, one should never see a non-devotee brahmana. One who converses with a non-devotee brahmana loses his piety. Within a few days, that wretched brahmana was attacked by smallpox, and as a result, his nose melted away and fell off. So this was the reaction Krishna himself gave. The punishment he had proposed for Haridas Thakur was awarded to himself by Krishna. Aggrieved to entire world sense gratification, Haridas would sigh deeply as he chanted the name of Krishna. The world was Vishete Magna Jagat. The entire world was absorbed in sense gratification. So seeing that, Haridas Thakur felt genuine compassion. So this is how the Vaishnavas are paradukha dukhi. After a few days, Haridas went to Navdeep with a desire to associate with the Vaishnavas there. So from there, he moved to Navdeep. All the devotees of Navdeep were overjoyed on seeing Haridas. Upon obtaining the association of Haridas, Advaita Acharya treated him as dear as his own life. All the Vaishnavas showered their affection on Haridas, and he reciprocated with great devotion. They discussed among themselves the burning offensive statement of the atheist, which was narrated. Then devotees constantly discussed with each other the topics of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. One who reads or hears these topics will attain the lotus feet of Lord, Supreme Lord, Sri Gaura Sundar. E jane padaye sunaye e sab akhyan tahar milibe Gaura Chandra Bhagwan. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Chandajan Vrindavana Dasa Tachu Pade Yuge Gan. Accepting Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. So that's how Vrindavan Das Thakur ends this chapter. So another important lesson from this second last pastime of Haridas Thakur is this Brahmana who angrily challenges Haridas Thakur. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that especially when very senior devotees give classes and speak the glories, sometimes we might have envy because he is at an elevated, ask questions in a challenging spirit, or later on go with that Vaishnava and might argue. And this kind of argument, by seeing, we can sense that there is internally some anartha which is springing out. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that these kind of arguments are very, very detrimental to devotional life. If at all we have to ask the senior Vaishnavas whatever glory they speak in the Bhagavatam classes or the Tattva, we should ask in a very submissive spirit. And this type of challenging attitude is very, very detrimental, and it is actually springing out of envy in the heart. And in my spiritual life, so many years, I have come across many times debates and arguments which happen on philosophical points, but this type of debate is not healthy, and I've seen very, very unhealthy debates which happen because of these anarthas. So one should be very careful that one should not fall prey to these inner emotions in the form of hate, envy towards elevated Vaishnavas, and go into these kind of argumentation and commit Vaishnava aparadh. So that is an important lesson we learn from this pastime. Another important point which is very relevant here is that this Brahmana immediately got the reaction and he got smallpox and his nose fell. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, we see many pastimes of how great devotees committed Vaishnava aparadh. Gopal Chakravarti committed Vaishnava aparadh to Srivas Thakur by placing the Durga paraphernalia in his house and unnecessarily blamed Srivas. Then Devanand Pandit committed offense to Srivas Thakur. There are many pastimes of Vaishnava aparadh. And the reactions, in fact, the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma committed offense to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh, sannyasi is eating 10 people's, bhoga, prasad. So all got reactions immediately. Within few moments or a few days, the reactions fully manifested. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, everything was happening spontaneous and immediately. But after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes are over, his Prakat Leela, in the Prakat Leela, when we commit Vaishnava aparadh, the reactions usually don't manifest immediately. They take some time. Sometimes they take years together. After 10 years, 12 years, the reaction of the offenses might manifest. And we also, out of delusion and illusion, think that, oh, I'm committing Vaishnava aparadh, nothing is happening to me. And we continue more committing Vaishnava aparadh. So this is a danger and devotees should be very careful about it. So moment we sense that we have committed we become conscious or we become conscious about it, and immediately we should take to rectification measures in the form of prayers, in the form of, speaking to our counselors and taking the rectification measures. And we should not be in illusion that, oh, I am not going through any suffering and, I'm not committing offense, and I become more proud and more commit offense and more I get implicated. So one should be very careful about it. So that's the lesson we take from this last pastime in the life of Haridas Thakur with the Brahmana blaspheming Haridas Thakur. So in the entire life of Haridas Thakur, in this entire chapter, you see pastime after pastime, Haridas Thakur is imprisoned, in the market, is ridiculed, is criticized, and still you can see how the Mahabhagavat, where Haridas Thakur, how he is still continuing with his practice. Everything he's accepting as Krishna's mercy, and he himself is not affected. So it's a very exalted learning for us, how we should also take these lessons from these pastimes of Haridas Thakur. So we'll stop here. Any questions, any clarifications, anyone has? Dhirendra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, with respect to last pastime, is it recommended that our prescribed round should be chanted loudly?
No. Our prescribed rounds should be chanted softly. Japa should be done softly. But in the initial stages of sadhaka life, it is not, we are not our consciousness is not fixed in hearing the mantra. So it is recommended that we chant a little loudly. But again, then if you are disturbing other devotees, then we'll have to go in a certain place where our chanting is not heard by other devotees. But this is my observation, not only initial years, many years, devotees are not able to chant softly because still the consciousness is filled with maybe aparadh or a lot of anarthas and the mind is very disturbed. So for them, especially those whose minds are very much disturbed, loud chanting is recommended. so that they can slowly pacify the mind. The mind will become pacified by chanting. But generally, japa in the temple is to be done softly, where you can only hear your mantra and you can sit in big circles before Tulsi. But even when you chant, the next person who's sitting at least hand breadth, full distance, should also not be able to hear your japa. That's how softly we should be able to chant. And if we are not able to do, then better for us to sit a little far away and chant, so that we don't disturb others' absorption in their chanting. And loud chanting is recommended in kirtans, in sankirtans, for the benefit of all living entities. Their loud chanting is recommended. How to do our sadhana. Is it clear, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji? Okay, any other questions anyone has?
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll stop here. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavad ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna.